Seconds. And I think we are now live. There we go. Yes.
Officially live.
Officially live. So once again, a warm welcome to everybody. This is episode 8 of our Perfectionism Call Check-in series. This marks the end of series number 1. We will collect some feedback afterwards and see whether we will persevere, pivot, or pause. So there will be a separate feedback form reaching everybody, and we encourage you to take 5 minutes and let us know what do you think. But yeah, that will come separately also later on this week because it's not ready yet.
Yeah, because we're keen to kind of evolve this and grow it, and there's like different options of how we might do that. So just understanding what you found most useful, what you're most interested in, gives us an insight in how we might take things forward.
Excellent.
So I'm so curious. I'm so curious, George, if any of our 2 joiners happen to be any of the people who volunteered who wanted to take the hot seat today.
Perhaps we shall see. Yeah. So if once again, we'd like to extend the invitation to anybody on the call for you to be a check-in partner with one of us this week. If not, then Sam and I will work out who'd like to be in the coaching seat and the coachee seat. So is there anybody amongst you who'd like to be our check-in partner today?
Leanne, I see you waving.
I can check in today.
Wonderful, wonderful, excellent. Welcome, Leanne. Would it help you if we all join in for a round of applause to welcome you into the virtual seat, or is it not to your liking?
I always like applause.
Yeah, very, very good. Then a round of applause for the wonderful Leanne. Excellent. And as is only good practice, have you thought about who you would like to be your coach for this check-in, Leanne?
I have thought about it, and I think I want to pick you, George.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, then I'm going to change my view so that I can be fully focused on you. Okay, Leanne, let's take a moment, take a deep breath and focus, and try to forget that we have so many wonderful people join us. This is just you and me having a coaching conversation. And in fact, what kind of conversation would serve you best today? Is it more of a conversation, or would you like to get some coaching on top of that?
Maybe a little bit of both. We can see how it goes.
Okay. All right. Play it by ear a little bit. So what is it that you would like to bring into this conversation in relation to perfectionism this time?
Today, I want to talk about imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah. The dynamic duo twin of perfectionism. Good. So how are you feeling generally today at the moment?
Well, I feel good, but I do notice these thoughts popping in. Like, am I on the correct path? Am I good at what I'm doing? All these questions that I really actually like. I have no evidence against them, but they still pop up and affect my confidence.
And are these some thoughts that are with you sometimes, or is it the first time this is happening?
This have happened before once, but the last time I didn't know what it was. But this time I feel more prepared because now I can like see the pattern, and so I understand what this is. But it's still hard or confusing, I guess.
Yeah. So first of all, it's amazing that you're already doing something about it and you have some awareness that helps you to interrupt some of those thoughts or catch some of those thoughts. How is it happening in the moment at the moment?
Well, I am currently, well, I have been like doing a lot of new things like to relax and like do something else than work. So I've been doing yoga and meditation, mindfulness, and I'm just like approaching this whole new world with tools and practices. But still, I feel like when I'm like in a situation where I'm changing my path, like professionally, I want it to be perfect, you know, but it's not possible. I want to know everything. But it's like this relaxing with not knowing. I think that's part.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like in a change. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're aware of what change in the in life or what change in the context is bringing about those thoughts, and you have some means of already responding to it, of catching those thoughts, and you know it's not really based on anything that is factual, but the thoughts still come up, and what remains is that desire for it to be as good as it can be. I'm purposefully not using the perfection word because you also know that that's not realistic. And the thing that remains is that discomfort with not knowing. Is that roughly a summary of what you're going through at the moment?
Because I feel like I'm like leaping or jumping into a new phase in my life or a new path. So it's just this limbo of going. I know that I have to go this way, but it's all these. Is this the correct? Am I in the right position to do so? Am I good enough? Am I all of these questions? You know, like I sit in a room and I observe the room. It's me and like a lot of elderly men in the room. I'm always the only one, the young woman in the group, in the technical group. So I get but nobody have like commented or anything. It's just thoughts in my head. Like, what am I doing here? Is this correct? Yeah. Do I deserve this? Is this all these thoughts? But I know that I'm getting these thoughts now because I'm doing something new.
Right.
So this time I'm watching it. I'm looking at the pattern and I know what is going on in my head. Yeah.
Which is fantastic. So if we didn't have this conversation, you would probably just continue with doing that, be mindful of your thoughts and acknowledge them and let go of them. Is that roughly how you would continue?
Yeah. But is that, and then I start thinking about is this correct? Is this the correct way? Or are these thoughts real? You know, it's this imposter syndrome again.
Yeah. So what is it that we could explore together that would make it an even better experience where you had an easier time and maybe not even have those thoughts?
Yeah, that's a good question. Is it possible to take them away? Or I just they sort of like, I want to see the benefit of these thoughts. I want to use them as a tool to evolve myself more than to criticize myself. Yeah, I think so. I don't want it to be like imposter syndrome. Ooh, you know, I want to be, yes, imposter syndrome. Cool. Now I know what I'm supposed to do.
All right. Yeah. Imposter syndrome as an ally, right? So how would like imposter syndrome
with your syndromes, I guess?
Exactly. Yeah. Get best buds with your imposter syndrome, right? So if imposter syndrome was a best bud of yours, would you want to name it something else or just keep calling it imposter syndrome?
I think I want to call it something else because it feels so negative. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So what
I
do
don't know
you
what
want
to
to call it?
it.
What's the first name that comes into your mind? If you think about imposter syndrome being a part of you,
Mm. Hmm. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think about which feelings or reflections I get every time I go through this. I know that on the other end, it's a good thing because I always learn something.
Right.
Yeah.
So this
something, yeah, I don't know what to call it.
well, maybe we can come back to that. Maybe you'll think of something on the way. Right. So what does it help you do? It helps you learn new things. What other powers does your ally have?
Oh, that's a good question. I think you know, I'm usually very like confident, and I do stuff. I take quick choices, or I aim to sometimes to jump too fast. So sometimes imposter syndrome helps me to break down a little bit and think.
Yeah.
Because I'm like a yes person to everything. Yes, 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 yes. And then I get a little bit overloaded. So maybe the positive thing with imposter syndrome for me now is that it makes me reflect and stop, you know, and just, hey, is this what you really want? Yeah.
Excellent. So you mentioned it helps you learn, it helps you slow down, helps you reflect. What else?
And I always grow after this kind of change that I'm going through. Uncertainty. Yeah.
Helps you grow. It's quite the ally you've got there.
It's quite nice, actually, when I think about it now.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing that you could do is to almost officially, ceremoniously enter into a relationship with your ally. Yeah. Is that something you might want to explore?
Yeah, definitely. Like, instead of making it something, now that I have, this is the first time that I'm noticing what it is, and I can like put a name on it. So I'm like getting to know a new friend, I think. So yeah. It's like, if I think about it as a person, I need to like take it easy and get to know this side of me and just understand it. Because before I would maybe didn't understand these thoughts because they didn't really make sense, because I was getting positive feedback from everywhere. So I was just like uncertain about myself because of myself. But at that point, I didn't know that. But now I know it. So, it just takes time. I just need to like take down the pace and be patient. Just relax about it and understand it.
All right. And your ally, if you were to imagine that ally actually taking shape in some form, where would you see it?
I'm not sure if I understand that question.
So we've got all these voices inside of us, right? And sometimes the voices seem to actually have a personality to them or a certain tone. And we can then make that a bit more explicit and a bit more concrete, similar to what we're doing right now. And we could take that even further and think about, well, if your ally actually was to take shape, and you just maybe close your eyes and think about this ally, where around you would that ally actually be?
I think it would be, you know, this thing you have, like this angel and devil on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Sort of like that, I think. Like,
which shoulder is your ally sitting on?
Maybe. The devil, but in a good way, because there's nothing wrong with the devil. It's, I mean, the angel, devil.
It's your ally. You can
my
look
ally. They
whichever
are
way you
part
want it
of
to.
me, both of them. Like with content, and I would want to have this balance. I need to have like this inner critic who ask questions, and because there's nothing wrong with these questions that pop up. I just need to like see what they are and see if they are truth or not. Which is basically how I do everything. I mean, you write down stuff and then you go check if this is, that's at least when I'm an engineer, so that's how I solve problems. I would like define the problem and then go explore and see if this is true or false. So,
okay.
So yeah, maybe I would do something like that. My ally would be like my inner critic, which is actually something positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as you are kind of establishing the rules of engagement with your ally, your inner critic, you've now referred to it a few times. Which behaviors of it would you not want in your relationship with it?
Oh, I don't want it to be like very extreme, like it becomes like a thought pattern that won't stop. Because I know that if this starts, it's very mild now, and that's really good. But I know if I start thinking about these thoughts and start working harder because I don't think I'm doing enough, right? It will break up the pattern, the sleep pattern, and then it will just continue into a burnout, maybe.
Right.
So I just need to understand it and look at it and accept it, but in a limited way. So maybe not accept the thoughts and not ignore them. Yeah. And check if they're true or not.
Yeah. So earlier in our conversation, you mentioned this example of sitting in the meeting room with a bunch of older male people. Yeah. What if you came back to that situation and now you have a bit more clarity about your ally, your inner critic, and it's sitting on one of your shoulders? So what would that experience be like now?
I think I would be more relaxed about it because I would be more aware of what it is, and I have a plan of how to handle it. So I'm more relaxed about it. Now there aren't a lot of meetings now because of Corona.
Right.
It's not on the screen, but I would definitely be more calm about it because there's like a process or procedure to do something about it or with it.
What about that name? Did anything come up? No name. An ally with no name.
I'm a ally.
Nice. So how would you summarize now your way of working with imposter syndrome?
Look at it as an ally more than a syndrome, because syndrome is a very negative word, I think. We should cut imposter syndrome some slack. It's not that bad. It's actually something positive if you look at it. If you choose to use it the correct way, it's not that bad.
And how are you choosing to use it?
As an inner critic, as I said, to learn something new or to improve myself. And I think it's much more normal than I think, because I have noticed the more I talk about it, the more people relate to it. So I'm not that special that I thought.
Well, you certainly are special, but you're not alone when it comes to imposter syndrome.
So actually, it's much more normal.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Also very, very normal, especially amongst coaches. It's a common thing that comes up at the end of coach courses. At the end, somebody asks, how do I get rid of my imposter syndrome? And I ask the question, first of all, does everybody appreciate what imposter syndrome is? Everybody nods and everybody says yes. And then I hold up the hand. Has anyone ever experienced it? And everybody raises their hand. So yeah. I think it would be weird if somebody in our profession never had any inklings of it.
They don't know the syndrome. They don't know about it yet. I think that's why.
Yeah, very good. Brilliant. How do you feel?
I feel good. I was a little bit nervous about talking about this today because I haven't really talked about this in a bigger group. But for me, it was important today to talk about it because it's not, now that I have, it's not that scary. So it's kind of this, this inner critic. You think it's scary or unsure about yourself, and then you go test it out. And I have tested it now, and it's okay. So now I have learned something. I'm stronger now than before.
Very good. Excellent. Is there anything else you'd like to say or anything else that you feel before we close?
Nope. I'm happy.
Good. All right. Thank you very much, Leanne. Would you be open to receiving another round of applause from the group as we transition over?
Of course.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. Thank you very much, Leanne. Please join me. Excellent. Very good. How did we do on time? More or less, pretty much there. Excellent. Here, me too.
Yes, nice.
Good. Transitioning breath. And I'm going to change to gallery view. Very good. So actually, let's do the test here. Of everybody on the call, would you please raise your hand if you have ever experienced any part of imposter syndrome? There we go. All right. What questions might there be in the group about the coaching process first of all? Questions, comments, queries?
How was it for both of you?
Leanne, how was it for you?
So it was good. I had a lot of I was a little bit nervous about talking about this today, but because I didn't know how we would end up. But I'm really happy that all of you raising your hand when have experienced this before, and it feels good to share something that I am going through now, and it seems to be normal and okay.
Very much so. For me, very good. There are quite a few concepts that can be used, different approaches of how something like this can go. Some of them made their way into what I offered. Some of them Leanne took to, others Leanne didn't take to. And you just go with the flow, and whatever works and is been taken, that will carry on.
But I did notice that it was a little bit weird to have a group watching me, and it's also being recorded and it's being streamed. So
yeah.
But I don't really mind, but I wasn't able to put that thought away. It was in there, but it feels good now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leanne. I know there's some additional processing that the brain is continuing to do, trying to filter that out, still never fully shaking the awareness. Yeah.
I think Leanne did really well opening up, considering that thought process.
Thank you.
And I think that's your ninja superpower, Leanne. Just your willingness to be really honest with yourself and to connect and to kind of to grapple with, you know, these challenges of, you know, being human.
Thank you.
Well done.
I think George helped that too. There's Maya Angelou said, didn't she? Said people forget what you said, and sometimes they'll forget what you did, but they rarely forget how you made them feel.
Mm. Mm. And I think from a coaching perspective, George, what a beautiful exposition of the coaching arc.
I really like George's questions, and it was like easy talking with you, George. It wasn't, I mean, I've only seen you through the screen.
Yeah.
But I was comfortable talking with you, and that's a very, I mean, that's something very good to have as a coach.
Thank you. Yeah, there's actually a book titled Relational Coaching, and it does all sorts of analysis of also going back into therapy sessions and coaching sessions, and what different methods, principles, and processes the different coaches used. But the one thing that was always the make or break differentiator between the effectiveness of the process is the relationship that the coach partner and coach had with each other. That's much more important than the specific coaching process or coaching approach. And that's why most coaches do some sort of chemistry session, usually complementary, in order to at the start to see whether they can establish that relationship. Yeah.
It's something that I noticed about the effectiveness of the coaching process, and why I say about your superpower, Leanne, because that ability to really connect and to be really honest, you know, it's partly our relationship with ourselves, and it's partly that relationship with the coach. And so the more you can be honest with yourself, and the better the relationship you have with the coach, the deeper you go, the more benefit that you get from coaching. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you.
Suliana asked for the author of the book. I'll need to confirm. Eric, was it?
Eric Dahan?
Yep, it's the one. That's the one.
Relational Coaching.
Yep. Was for me very helpful to read that book, because of course in the beginning I was on the search for the best and most effective and most perfect coaching approach. And luckily that book was part of the required reading list of the first coaching program, but I only got to it later on. And yeah, it helped me to see that I really don't need to fuss all that much. Yeah, five is enough.
Something I'm curious if it came up in your. I'm pretty sure you'll be familiar with this, George, because, and I raise it because I think you did really well not to jump onto it, as I wonder if I might have done. Is Leanne's use of the word inner critic, because of course in psychology, inner critic is a very mean part of our superego that can, you know, that's like imposter syndrome and more, but it means something different to you. And we could actually see that, you know, And I really liked the way that George honoured that, and he didn't go there with inner critic. So I was curious, George, did you know inner critic, right? And you deliberately left it because you could see.
Yeah. In the beginning, we tried naming it, and no name presented itself. So there we go. And one more invitation later on to come up with a name, and nothing came up. So, inner critic, what was that? Yeah, that's one of those things that was offered and was not a match, and that's perfectly fine. Another thing that we played with that didn't take was the actual spatial identification of the ally, and the closest to that were the shoulders. But nothing too specific, and no particular shape or anything other than devil came up. And for some people, these types of questions immediately stimulate a spatial awareness of where that voice tends to come from. And if that was the case, then we might have played with that a bit more and see, what shape is it, what color is it, and so on and so forth. But for some people, that doesn't come about, and then it's not effective, and there's no point trying to force it. So that's why we didn't go further in that area. What other questions, musings, queries are coming up from the group?
I like the part where you stick for her to try to give a name on her vision of the imposter syndrome. This reminds me of a practice that Carol Dweck mentions on the book Mindset. She says in her workshops, she usually asks for the audience to think about their fixed mindset, the one that stopped them to improve, that stops them from striving and to reaching their goals, and try to give to this mindset more than a name, but a persona, creating it a persona to it, giving it a kind of personality, kind of behavior when it affects the person the most, and giving it a name could easily make the person to realize it and say, Maria, stop saying that to me. And maybe Lian will have her time to think about a name.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is referring to. So you might also come across it in practice that is referred to as the inner team, your inner team, and thinking about different parts of yourself. And you can hire new members onto your inner team. You can have a candid conversation with current team members that need a bit of course correction. You can fire members of your team that are no longer serving you. And inner team is actually pretty good as a metaphor. In executive coaching, you might come across the same practice as the inner boardroom, to make it even sound even more corporate, if you like. But it's all the same stuff. So Cynthia Loy Darst, she has a few talks also that you can look up where she presents that concept more. Yeah, and the naming and playing with those parts of you. And it's not usually not just one, it's many, right? Because we have different parts of ourselves that that we tend to be in better or not so good relationship with.
Can you put her name in the chat, George?
Oh, yes.
I wonder if a technique, George, for people who perhaps don't find that so easy to look for somebody in themselves is maybe a technique might be to say, you might naturally say when situations happen, what would what would my dad say? What would my wife say? What would my, there's somebody you perhaps would think about a different perspective of the situation, and that might help them to then think about, well, what would you say if you were out of your body, if you were looking at yourself, knowing what you're capable of, knowing what your limits are, your boundaries are? What would you do? What would you say? Because sometimes it's not clear enough for us in the situation, and that's what we're really trying to do with this alter ego, right? The behavior technique is to help them to think about somebody physical and then start becoming imaginary.
Yeah, definitely another option. Yeah. Very good. Good. So we are actually almost out of time, but while we're here together, I'm curious to learn just from you whether when you signed up initially, there was something that you were hoping for that you haven't received yet from this this series, or generally from signing up to something that is called Busting the Myths of Perfection.
So the question, George, was, is there something that you haven't yet gotten from this group that you expected to get when you signed up?
Yeah. It's much clearer this way. Thank you, Sam.
No, I think it was the same. I was just checking that I heard it. Yeah.
I think for me, I feel like what we have now, like the group, the same people coming back again, and it's getting more comfortable. And I think this what's happening this session and last session, this is what I've been looking for and have started now. So
thank you.
And how many of you are here because of perfectionism versus how many of you are here because of watching coaching, and that this is more about coaching for you than perfectionism as a topic?
It's hard.
both.
Yes.
Can we vote for both?
Me as well.
So many choices.
I switched, Sam. I joined for the perfectionism bit, wondering what it was going to be about, because I didn't really know what to expect. And then when I fell into the coaching, I then stayed and kept coming back because I was gaining something out of the coaching. To be perfectly honest, I probably left the perfectionist bit behind.
Okay. For me, it was like I saw that George, that is the person that I already knew, was calling for these conversations. And I thought that it could be fine and it could be a good idea and a way to engage with people with the same interests that I have, including coaching or perfectionism. And for me, it was great because of that. And that was the big awareness. It was like, okay, this is a group that I can go and feel comfortable with, and we have interests in common. So that's fine. But I think that if it was not perfectionism and it was some other topic that also adds something that would connect my idea with what I already learned with George. 1 year ago, I was in the training with George. So that would be the same. I would be here also. So it's not just about perfectionism. But when I saw it, it was great to have it here, but if it was not perfectionism, which much more about meeting people with the same interests that I have and have the possibility to have this connection with people that have the same interests and that I I can meet and talk with. And that was it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, then I think we want to continue to be respectful of your time, but I have a feeling some of you might stick around for the traditional after call chat anyway. Shall we call it Sam?
I think so. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for being part of this first series of 8.
Thank you.
And a special thanks again to Leanne, once again. Thank you very much for jumping into the virtual seat. Yeah, once again, a big thank you for joining and watching the recordings. And we will send out an invitation to another feedback forum to learn a bit more from what what we might be able to do going forward. While we're still putting that one together, I'm just going to plop the one just for this call into the chat. And if you have a moment, please let us know what you thought about today's call. And with that, I'm going to stop the recording and stop the live stream. So once again, thank you very much and see you soon.